The finest gardens are those that feel as though they've been loved for decades. Today, we step away from fleeting trends and dive into the enduring charm of the vintage rustic garden. This style is born not from new purchases, but from things gathered and weathered. The crackle of old paint, the smooth patina of aged metal, and the lush softness of abundant growth. Even the smallest space can possess this depth of history. Let's look at how to let your garden's story unfold. There is an enduring beauty in materials that tell a story, and nothing does this better than reclaimed wood. Imagine the silvery gray patina of old barn planks or the rough texture of shipping pallets transformed into a deep, rustic raised bed. These planters bring an immediate sense of history and warmth to a small garden. They are not merely containers. They are anchors, providing a strong, beautiful framework for your overflowing blooms. In a compact space, the simplicity of square or rectangular reclaimed beds helps keep the wildness of the rustic planting style contained and organized, proving that even a limited footprint can be rich in texture and character. When horizontal space is a luxury, the only way to go is up. A rustic vertical garden is less about sleek, modern panels and more about textured layers and salvaged materials. Think of old ladders repurposed as plant shelving, or a wall dressed in aged terracotta pots secured to reclaimed lumber. The secret here is to treat the wall as a backdrop for a cascading tapestry of greenery. Using climbing roses, ivy, or simple herbs creates a lush, abundant effect that makes the entire area feel bigger and more encompassing. It's an easy, high-impact solution that turns a dull boundary wall into the most vibrant part of your vintage retreat. Adding a vintage-style bird bath instantly introduces a classic, serene focal point to a small courtyard. It's a decorative piece that is also functional, drawing in life and movement. Picture a weathered stone pedestal, its surface softened by moss and age, sitting amongst a bed of lush lavender. The subtle sound of running or splashing water, even a gentle drip, is transformative, masking city noise and creating an atmosphere of peace and quiet reflection. Even in a tiny space, a well-placed bird bath, perhaps flanked by two small wrought iron chairs, creates an anchor point that invites both wildlife and relaxation. Designing a vintage garden on a balcony requires a thoughtful balance between whimsy and practicality. The focus shifts from large beds to charming containers. Start with mismatched terracotta pots, letting their chipped edges and weathered surfaces contribute to the vintage look. Introduce miniature trellises for climbing sweet peas, and use small, foldable bistro furniture made of iron. This design style thrives on the collected over time aesthetic, using salvaged objects like old lanterns or enamelware buckets as unique planters. The result is a personal, elevated escape that feels like a Parisian cafe or a hidden romantic rooftop garden. The sharp, cool tone of galvanized metal is the perfect complement to the warm, earthy colors of a rustic garden. It's a durable, cost-effective material often seen in farm-style decor, but it translates beautifully to a small vintage space. Look for old metal washtubs, watering cans, or buckets and repurpose them as large, dramatic planters for shrubs or herbs. The natural patina, a subtle dullness or even a touch of rust, adds character. Placing a tall, cylindrical galvanized container in a corner draws the eye up, adding vertical interest without taking up much floor space. In a small garden, every surface choice matters, and a gravel path offers an immediate infusion of rustic charm. Unlike solid paving, gravel creates a softer, more informal texture that invites you to slow down. The satisfying crunch underfoot adds a sensory element to your garden walk. For small spaces, a winding pea gravel path that disappears slightly behind a cluster of plants can trick the eye into thinking the space is longer than it is. The edges can be softened by allowing low-growing thyme or creeping sedum to spill over the border, reinforcing that wonderful wild cottage feel. The soul of a vintage garden lies in its containers. Forget matching sets. The beauty is in the eclectic mix of vintage containers. This is where the charm of the cottage style comes to life. Hunt for old chimney pots, wooden crates marked with stencils, chipped enamelware, or even repurposed ceramic kitchen bowls. Filling these varied vessels with a joyful, slightly messy abundance of flowers, think hollyhocks, snapdragons, and vibrant geraniums, creates a sense of history and personality. These collected items make a small space feel rich, well-loved, and deeply personal. In a small patio or balcony setting, wrought iron furniture is an essential element for a vintage rustic look. It offers an appealing visual weight without feeling heavy or bulky, and the open scrollwork allows light to pass through, keeping the space airy. An aged iron bistro set for two, perhaps with a delicate pattern, immediately suggests a moment of rest and elegance. The slight chipping of old paint and a touch of surface rust simply adds to the furniture's authentic vintage character, providing a perfect spot for morning tea surrounded by your rustic planting. garden is both practical and deeply rustic, perfectly suited for a sunny window ledge or a small garden corner. Instead of modern plastic, plant your herbs in charming containers that embody the vintage style. Use small clay pots, rustic wooden boxes, or even old tin cans with their labels worn away. Grouping them by color or size and adding a small, hand-painted wooden sign for each herb brings an artisanal, functional charm. The wonderful fragrance of rosemary, basil, and mint adds a rich, sensory layer to your compact garden design. The essence of the rustic style is the embrace of age, and nothing illustrates this better than moss and patina. This is the art of celebrating imperfections. Instead of meticulously scrubbing your stone or concrete pieces, encourage the growth of soft green moss on old planters, statues, or water features. The bluish-green layer that forms on copper or brass, the patina, adds depth and a sense of timelessness. This approach creates an ancient, established atmosphere, making your small new garden look as though it has been loved and tended for generations. A creative, cost-effective way to add detailed vintage texture is through broken pottery mosaics. Don't throw away those chipped terracotta saucers or cracked ceramic plates. Instead, repurpose the pieces to create unique accents. You can use the shards to line the edge of a small path, decorate the side of a simple wooden raised bed, or even create a striking top surface for a small, salvaged side table. This unique, intricate detail provides a wonderful folk art element that is truly unique and gives the garden a deeply personal, handmade feel. window frames add incredible structure and a sense of architectural history to a garden wall or fence. Without the glass, they become instant rustic art. Hang a weathered frame on a brick wall and train a climbing plant like ivy or a small rose to weave through the panes. The frame creates a trompe-l'oeil effect, suggesting a view into another space and magically expanding your small garden. Painting the wood in a distressed muted color like sage green or antique white enhances the vintage cottage feel. Even the smallest backyard can house a secret garden nook. The trick is to create a sense of enclosure and mystery. Use a repurposed door or a tall, narrow trellis covered in vines to create a small gateway into a corner. Place a small, worn bench beneath an archway, or use tall plants to screen off a small seating area. This feeling of stepping into a hidden space, even one just a few feet square, transforms a simple backyard corner into a deeply romantic and inviting sanctuary. A rustic trellis or arch is the most effective way to introduce dramatic vertical structure to a small garden. Instead of sleek metal, choose one made from simple, aged wood, woven branches, or even rusty wire fencing. Placing a simple arch over the entrance to a path or a gate creates a sense of occasion. Training fragrant climbing roses, wisteria, or honeysuckle to climb the structure brings the garden's life up and over your head, turning the garden into a cozy, all-encompassing experience. What remains is a space that feels deeply rooted and personal. A small haven built on textures and time. These designs prove that character matters more than sheer size. May the tranquility of these rustic nooks inspire you to celebrate the beauty of the worn and the well-loved in your own green space.